that's one of the counters to the Rhyme. Taken off the board, it could set them up really well towards the later stage.
I actually think they want to go for the CP Idris here, and that's why they banned the Scarf. Because if they go for the CP Idris, the only hero left for Kvalifar to play is the Blackfeather that he just played and didn't do too well on it. They can either go for the CP Idris or the Blackfeather. If they go for the Blackfeather, that also works for them because then they can dive on the CP Idris that Kvalifar will pick. But that is probably riskier because Kvalifar's CP Idris is definitely one of the strongest in Europe. Other than that, the ban that's going to be coming out from SK is going to be crucial because, like you said, if they leave Krul open, Dynasty might still pick it up, and it's been working for Rekomeza.
Yeah, again, the Arden Kroll with a hyper carry is what Dynasty used to demolish G2 in the semifinal, and it could just be a repeat performance against SK if that Kroll's not banned. But like you said, there's so many other picks, there's so many other ways that this could go. If they do take away that Kroll, they're going to instead take the Kestrel off the board. So they're saying that they feel like this Arden Kroll only worked because it was the Celeste and the Kestrel in the hands of PT Lamb. But now PT Lamb, he could go for the Idris himself, or do they leave that open for SK?
I really hope Dynasty picks CP Idris here instead of Krul, because if they go for Krul and CP Idris gets taken away, they're not going to have a hyper carry. Instead, they go for Rhyme. They even leave Krul. They're like, we're going to go back to day one of this weekend, and we're going to show you the Rekomeza Rhyme.
I mean, they've already been able to beat a Kroll with the Rhyme a couple of times, so they're not terribly afraid of the Kroll, but with the Idris coming through, now you have the Grace-Idris combo alongside the Kroll. This is a pretty strong comp.
This is Weapon Power Sky that's most likely going to be coming out for PT Lamb. He doesn't have any hyper carries. The Celeste is gone, Kestrel is gone, Idris is gone, and Weapon Power Sky synergizes really well with Rhyme because you can apply a lot of pressure. They're going to take their time thinking about it, and they might show something completely new just to catch SK off guard, but the Weapon Power Sky would work perfectly here. The draft coming out from SK Gaming, the CP Idris, the Krul, and the Graves, this is a very well-rounded comp. We've talked about it before. It has a lot of early game aggression because of the Krul, and a lot of late game scaling because of the CP Idris and the Graves.
Could we see something like a weapon power duel going into the lane here just to match up in that? This is definitely a bruiser matchup so far, and Jewel can go toe-to-toe with the best of them. It is going to be the Sky in the end. You are right on this one, Zorro, and it is going to be that weapon power Sky heading on into the lane. So looking at the compositions then, how are we expecting this one to play out? Because it looks like pretty aggressive compositions for both sides here.
Both of these compositions are actually fairly similar in what they're going to be trying to do. You know, Sky and Idris both want to be this hyper carry with Grace, Arden, Kroll, and the Rhyme to kind of be that bruiser frontline and protection for them. So it's going to be just a clash of styles of who ends up coming out on top because of the fact that it's very similar playstyle plans with their comps.
Right. I mean, Dynasty have a clear win condition, which is that to play aggressive around the Sky and the Rhyme. If they do that, if they snowball, they can take the game. They're going to have to be careful about the Krul level 6, however.
Yeah, Krul level 6 is always going to be a huge part in any game. It is just about time to jump into the second game of our grand final, though. But we want you guys to let us know who you're supporting on Twitter. Hashtag Vainglory8. Do you think that Dynasty can turn this into a 2-0, or are SK going to even things up and push us to a 3-game final? It's time to find out as we pass it back over to our casters once again and get into game number 2.
Pretty exciting to see these two compositions, Xscoundrel. It's Dynasty's Rhyme, Sky, Mowgli's Arden, and it is, of course, SK on a very convincing composition that they've won so many games on here, Xscoundrel. Both teams pretty much picking up their two most successful compositions. We'll have to see which one trumps the other.
Yeah, and I think Rekomeza specifically is going to have to look to snowball off this Rhyme here. I think Kvalifar, we know, is going to go Frostburn. It's the right decision against the Rhyme to slow his movement speed, make it harder for him to get into the aggressive range that we know Rhyme likes to be in. So we know that that's going to be coming out ASAP, and then once Kvalifar scales up, that will be an issue. PT Lamb, we've seen him do some really, really amazing things in the Weapon Power Sky, but he's got a crystal bit in tow. That's very interesting. Is that something? I don't think that's something that he's been starting with when we've seen him on the Weapon Power Sky recently here, Dowsey. So I'm wondering whether this is going to be double crystal power coming out of Dynasty.
Perhaps, maybe it's for harassment in the lane, as the forward barrage could do a little bit more damage to the melee Idris here. I guess only time will tell. It could be double CP coming out. And you know, against an Idris who will only pick up one piece of defensive could be the case. I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on PT Lam's build, because yesterday it was very weapon power, crit heavy, auto attack speed, pretty much at the limit of the cap with double tornado triggers.
So, for those of you that were listening yesterday, you'll understand that traditionally Cruel is considered quite good into Rhyme, because Rhyme relies on his damage as his sustain. So Rhyme gets his sustain from dealing damage, which is why when people go Shatterglass with Rhyme, he gets more sustain out of it, because you generate huge amounts of fortified health. When you reduce his damage weakness stacks, you make him more vulnerable, and he doesn't generate as much fortified health, and the reason that Rhyme is good in hand-to-hand combat, per se, is because of that fortified health generation. So Cruel in that particular instance is why he's pretty decent into Rhyme, and you can see Tyrus here looking to take early advantages, but does get locked up by the Winter Spire. Eggman now in no man's land.
Be okay with this Grace, very fast movement speed, boots as well, and does just piece on out. Dynasty are rotating down as a 3 to secure this central Treant. Tyra's going to be held at bay with forward barrages and easily secured there for a Dynasty who put a low priority on that Treant, especially for Rikameza on this Rhyme. He clears the jungle so quickly. He wants a bit of the SK jungle here, but there isn't really much to take, so instead just going to hang around in the tri-bush waiting for it to spawn.
Eggman now caught out potentially as Rikameza.
Balafal's rotated here. Rikameza is actually very much in trouble. I think he will be looking to buy time for Mowgli to get away, and he has done that successfully. Tyra should easily be able to deal with the Rhyme here, who is going to look to try and steal as many of these camps away as possible, but unfortunately won't get any. First blood will go over to Tyra's, and like Iraqi Zora said at the beginning of Game 1, cannot be allowing SK to get these early advantages, because they're a team that consistently will make a lot out of it.
And PT Lam picking up the heavy steel does indicate that actually it's going to be weapon power Sky and the CP Rhyme obviously coming through. The Crystal bit maybe just picked up for a little bit of early trading potential, especially in these jungle brawls early on. Maybe the lock-on damage from the forward barrage just going to be a bit amplified by that Crystal bit, but strikes me as a little bit odd. I haven't really seen him make the maximum amount of use out of it right now. I probably would have preferred to just have slightly harder hitting basic attacks. But PT Lam, we've seen him so well on this weapon power Sky. He's been a major force for Dynasty this week. I think almost every game has seen PT Lam have an incredible performance. Rikameza on the back foot on this Rhyme, as you'd probably expect into the matchup. Tyra's has been prioritizing a bit of shielding, as has Hegman, obviously for that fountain, but Tyra's also getting it in there, realizing that the less damage that the Rhyme can do to him, the better it will be in and jewels.
We do see that PG Lamb is going Sora Blade first item, so just using that single crystal bit for the added damage that the forward barrage will get from it, just to try and put pressure on Kavalafar in the lane, although Kavalafar has dealt with it fairly successfully so far.
And you can see already Kavalafar picks up the Frostburn Divergent Paths have been unlocked. Now we're going to have that ability to just slow down Rikameza here. Make him a little bit more difficult for him to position in teamfights and get into that right position. Kavalafar takes a very forward, aggressive move here. And wow, Chakram, whilst not doing the same amount of damage that the Frostburn, the Shatterglass would do, still does a decent chunk of damage when you get the double return on it.
Currently, not much to be said other than that SK have a fairly strong grasp of the early game. However, it wasn't good enough in the previous game where they held pretty much control of the game up until the 16-17 minute mark, and then Dynasty were able to regain it. Tyra's, though, will take away this Crystal Sentry uncontested. And there's going to be Dynasty looking to try and push the lane in as hard as possible here to try and put pressure back onto SK. However, they are allowing Tyra's to take away the backs, and this is actually just so good for SK. Nothing lost by them, only gold gained, and Rikameza being set behind.
One of the things that we also have yet to talk about is how Weapon Sky, pretty good into the Rhyme, specifically your 4 barrage, has a scaling slow that scales with weapon power. You have the ability with the maxed Suri Strike and the movement speed from your heroic perk to dance around the bloody Cruel. Dance around the Cruel and make it hard for him to lock onto you. So you know, PT Lamb is almost like counterblow for counterblow. PT Lamb trying to counter the Rhyme in this instance. So I think a lot of this game is going to come down to Kavalafar's shoulders. You know, can he perform in the late game on this CP Idris? He's really the sort of the crucial linchpin for the SK composition, you feel, because whilst, you know, Tyrez is going to have a good time against Rikomeza on this Rhyme, PT Lamb on this Sky is going to have a decent time into Tyrez on the Cruel. And then obviously then eyes, like we said, are turned towards Kavalafar.
Important time this Scoundrel. This is the end of Split 1 after this game here. Usually Split 1's 4 weeks and Split 2's 3 weeks, but with Mobile Masters happening next week, it's going to be the other way around, and so important for these teams to gain priority positioning heading into Split 2. Dynasty have already done such a fantastic job of it so far. SK clearly sitting very comfortably at the top of Europe, but want to try and put as much gap between their opponents before heading into Split 2 of the autumn season, if they want to have that singular European world spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think SK need to buck things up here because, you know, if they want to make sure that they secure themselves as the top contender for the European side of things, this is the series that they want to decisively take. If you start struggling against Dynasty, who haven't classically looked like the strongest European team in total, then you will be worries for SK, especially as themselves, their own confidence going forward, because as of yet, they've been fairly unchallenged in their dominance in the region. And now Dynasty stepping up. It's for SK, they would be probably pretty sad that they end up losing at least the game, because the gauntlet comes through.
Yeah, Death from Above's going to catch up Hegman as well. Tyra's in the front line, doing a bit of damage to Rikomeza as he's forced to walk away. Smite doesn't quite kill him though. Rikomeza will be able to get under the turret, but look at the amount of health SK has. It's astonishing that everyone is so healthy, and that's an easy turret for them. PT Lamb now looking to escape as Hegman tanks up that forward barrage, and Kavalafar dives forward. Can't quite find the kill with just a Frostburn in his inventory. SK though, strike true, finding that first objective like they so often do, and Tyra's going to take the Crystal Sentry's second life off the board at 8.5.
Goodness me, you saw how poorly Rikomeza fared into the Cruel here.
Crystal Sentry.
He's a matchup that he played yesterday, and I think he actually ended up winning, but you know, you're now going to play it in the hands of Tyras, who has been playing Cruel so effectively over the last few weeks. I picked it has become so strong on the current update. A lot of bans being targeted towards it by a lot of European teams. And you can see when they do get their hands on it, they try and make it worth its money or worth its weight in gold. Tyra is now working towards what I imagine is going to be a poison shiv. He's gone for the breaking point first item here. Again, it's that tactic of if you focus Kavalafar, well, I'm going to be making myself a significant threat in these fights if you're not focusing me. And then the poison shiv will come through and help deny some of the sustain coming up from Mowgli, and some sustain which we imagine will come through from the Eve of Harvest from Rikomeza once he finishes up that item.
Currently, Dynasty are looking to scale up this Sky, which is kind of when we've seen Dynasty really take over games with this composition. When Mowgli gets that Echo and Sky gets her 4th damage item, they're really able to output a lot of work. However, Kavalafar is getting closer and closer to finishing his 3rd item being that Broken Myth, and that's a scary prospect for Dynasty, something they have to consider. Looks like a fight will break out over this gold miner. Gauntlet just traps SK in it, but maybe they're happy to be there as Rikomeza is going very low. PT Lamb's trying his best to get onto this Idris, but he cannot, and now PT Lamb has put himself in harm's way. Another kill goes SK's way, 3-0, and a gold miner. Fairly successful day out on the fold. Mowgli's gauntlets have just been creating battlegrounds for SK, not really stunning them where they stand, and now he's in a little bit of trouble as well. With the Frostburn, I don't think he escapes. In fact, he just runs towards the turret to make things a little bit quicker.
Yeah, he's going to put himself out of the misery there. Tyrus is going to eliminate the Sentry, and SK are going to start to push down towards this lane. Looks like they needed a wake-up call in that last game, Dalsy, and their alarm has been thoroughly set for win o'clock, as they are trying to bring themselves back into this series. The Death from Above and the Sky will start to push them away, though. Kavalafar is going to start to get focused down.
Yep, but a great Holy Nova should buy... Oh, never mind. The tick away on this Rhyme finds the kill. Tyra is probably going to fall as well, you would feel, but maybe after PT Lamb goes down. Maybe not. Rikomeza goes this Broken Myth. Tyra's going to get this heal. 9 stacks on Rikomeza, but there's just no energy, and he is in so much trouble. Here comes the Cruel looking for his dessert. Hasty Rhyme will escape.
And that's again, just illustrating the Cruel Rhyme matchup. You get those weakness stacks onto the Cruel, no matter how many broken mist stacks he starts to get. That damage is severely limited, his sustain is severely limited, and it's hard to take down Tyrus, who, the more weakness stacks he builds into a target, the more lifesteal he gains against that target. And with those breaking point stacks building up, the lifesteal gets more and more impressive, more and more regenerative for the Cruel, and you end up just, by war of attrition almost, winning out in almost every single duel. Kvalify, though, locked up by that Winter Spire. Still a slight win for SK as they again move on to Mowgli.
Gonna be a great Valkyrie coming down, rooting Tyrus inside this gauntlet. Does stun up PT Lamb, though. Mowgli going to be in a bit of trouble, but it's Kvalify who's now being threatened as Tyrus falls. Shimmer Strike to put him into a position, but it's hard to escape a Sky. I was going to say a position of safety, but I forget that Theory Strike is an ability that pretty much follows you no matter where you go. Now this turret will go down, and the Gold Miner looks like it's going to be started up as well.
And PT, I think they just disrespected the Death from Above there. The Death from Above was the single most impactful ability used in that last fight. It almost beautifully placed on top of Tyrus, essentially stopping any move that he was trying to make to follow up from the Hegman's benediction, and then just was stuck in place. Allowed Rickameza and PT Lamb to get the damage down onto him, and you could see then Tyrus was split between diving PT Lamb with his ultimate, and then splitting back onto Rickameza to try and build stacks and look for a smite. Neither of which worked, because he kind of went 50-50 on both, and then that allowed Dynasty to clear him up and then focus onto Kvalify, who has now picked up his broken myth. So let's give credit where credit is due. We're hitting later game CP Idris, which is kind of where, whenever you pick a CP Idris, your ideal scenario is, and it's at 13 minutes, so not a too bad time for him to have picked up this many items. Has also got the armor and the reflex block, so maybe looking for just a 3-item CP Idris build in total. With the Frostburn, you feel like sometimes that lacks a little bit of damage, but if they're looking for elongated fights with the Breaking Point Cruel, maybe they're just going to rely on those broken mid stacks.
Although Breaking Point picked up for PT Lamb means that he will also be stacking up as the time goes on Rickameza as well. Very scary. It's going to be very interesting to see if K-Val does decide to sell one of those defensive items and go for a 4 damage item build instead, because as the fight does go on, you have to feel that Dynasty Gaming's damage also becomes pretty strong. Great Gauntlet going to lock up Tyra as a Valkyrie. Doesn't quite connect though from Rickameza. Now it is going to be SK looking for the re-engage. Tyra's doesn't quite find the stun. Great Crucible comes through, but Rickameza's melting as we speak. PT Lamb trying to stack up that Breaking Point, trying to lay down the damage. Has to get on to Kvalify, but instead he finds himself going down to this Idris. 1, 2, and a third for K-Val. Except it was Tyrus who got the double. It's an ace nonetheless, Scoundrel, and it's SK's ace.
Yeah, that was actually a lot about Hegman in that fight. That Holy Nova from him in the middle of the Suri strike from Sky was just unbelievably timed, allowing Kvalify the space to back off. If that hadn't hit and PT Lamb had finished the Suri strike, you can't help but feel with the amount of breaking point stacks that he had, Kvalify would have got locked down. There's a replay coming through. Let's just take a quick look at that. The initial gauntlet, not so good. SK were very easily able to dive back out of it. But take a look at Hegman, a couple of some really key Holy Novas to lock things up. Block on the block on the ultimate from Tyrus is not so bad, and you can see immediately Kvalify forced into a defensive position. The Divine Intervention saves his life once, the Holy Nova saves his life twice, and by this point you're looking at a heavily stacked Idris with lots of broken mid stacks coming through. Hegman, massive MVP in that fight for the timing of his abilities.
Time and time again, steps up when his team needs him the most and provides just that, the protection for his team. Dynasty may look for round 2 here as we fight in a very similar position. Mowgli has that gauntlet available once more, but no echo available for the Arden this time. There's an echo on that Divine Intervention that you have to fear. That's why the Poison Shiv from PTLM is there to stop the healing that Kvalify has. There's that gauntlet. That's a route onto Kvalify. He's going to Shimmer Strike, gets to the other side of the gauntlet, trying to just escape Divine Intervention, doing so much work, and PT Lamb's going very low. He's in trouble, tries to Suri Strike away, trying to get away of Tyra's, but it's going to be a smite in just a second to kill him if PT Lamb's not careful. Does position very well, does survive as well. It's a 1-for-1 trade. The junglers are dead, leaving just a carry and a captain each on both teams. The fight being disengaged as well. Yeah,
and Kvalify able to back out there. Rickameza has picked up a Atlas Pauldrons as well. You can see he's actually really limited his offensive build path, and you can see in that fight as well why PT Lam has picked up this Sky into the Cruel. With the kite back on such low HP, the slowing of the forward barrage meant that Ryan was unable to finish off his target without that gap closing and without the smite to get the executing blow as well. It's essentially the breaking point race versus the broken myth race here for SK, because they spent most of that fight. Kavalifar had a brilliant shimmer strike, by the way, to dodge a huge amount of CC. I think he dodged the Valkyrie entirely, allowed him to get onto the other side of the gauntlet. Then he just basically played stacking wars with Sky. Whilst the weakness stacks were building on Sky, stops her quick stacking of the broken myth, by the way. If you get those weakness stacks onto her, she's going to stack the breaking point much more slowly. And then that allowed Kavalifar to trade evenly in a basic attack duel with her, as Kavalifar was obviously generating those broken myth stacks.
Currently we see PT Lam looking to try and get what I have to imagine would be a bone saw online so he can shred through Tyras a little bit quicker, has that metal jacket in tail. Kavalifar very forward in this fight, does get engaged on. That's going to be a gauntlet stunning him up on the side, and it is going to be Rikumeza trying to get onto this Idris. Valkyrie dodged out, but it is Tyra's taking so much damage, and he will go down at the beginning of the fight. Rikumeza may fall just as quickly, and now it's the captain carry combination. PT Lam dancing, but a double kill comes through for him, takes down the Idris, and now he's looking for Hegman as well. Forward barrage to slow down. It's divine intervention. No, it's benediction. It's a death for this Grace, and Dynasty do it. The breaking point comes out trumps for PT Lam. The position in game 1, and a Kraken for Dynasty.
Wow, maybe the piercing spear was all that he needed to give him the extra slight edge and take Tyras out, who got again kited around by PT Lam just when this guy is needed for his team. He steps up at the correct moment. I think one of the major issues with Kavalifar was he walked back into the gauntlet wall in that fight. It was another great shimmer strike to miss that ultimate from the Valkyrie, but Tyras gets taken out there. Once Kavalifar finds the kill with another, amazing use of the Holy Nova from Eggman. But the audacity and the knowledge for PT Lam to know that he has the capability to jump to the back line and kill Kavalifar before Kavalifar can kill him shows you how well this guy is playing. Has been a standout performer. The bone saw gets finished, and suddenly the long game fights look on equal pegging between Kavalifar and PT, as Kavalifar finishes up his harvest now.
That might just be enough to tip it back in favor towards Kavalifar, Scoundrel. Really just depends on how much damage PT Lam takes in the process. The poison chip heals, but for how much? It's not as much, I don't think, as an Eve of Harvest. Kraken finds the first turret here of its push, taking a lot of damage though as it pushes towards the choke point turret, and Dynasty will not even entertain a fight around it, instead going to move in and take down the Crystal Sentry instead. One thing that Mowgli still doesn't have is an Echo. 90 minutes, it's very difficult for this captain to get it, has to invest so much money into flares. Perhaps it's not going to ever become a thing. Instead, an Echo is going to come out of Rikumeza. Double Valkyries on the horizon.
Wow, that's really interesting, and that lends you to believe that this is now more of a it sounds funny to say, but a utility-focused Ryan. Just looking to put pressure and either get a double root and sort of stun up onto Kavalifar.
Going to be that gauntlet going down. Valkyrie hasn't been used just yet. Instead it has. It's going to come out again in just a second. There it is, double Valkyrie. Locks up Tyras. But look at PT Lam struggling to dance around this. Cruel, the divine interventions keeping him alive. Mowgli and Rikumeza are so low. And Riku falls. Mowgli just trying to buy time. PT Lam backing. Escapes just about. But Mowgli unfortunately cannot. Now, with just 2 Vein Crystal turrets separating SK from their win in this series, we'll have to see if they decide to push heavily towards the base.
They don't have too much time to work with here, Darcy, though. It feels like that was a teamfight win for the sake of teamfight win. They might be able to push with this wave. PT Lam is up and available. A stray catch onto him might be all that they need, and in 10 seconds, Tyras does have that ultimate available. PT Lam will be forced to have to reflex block, and SK are looking to push this one out. They are very, very close to having the rest of the Dynasty Gaming roster up and ready to fight those. They look like they're going to back off with just 1 turret as their bounty.
Yeah, Rikumeza has respawned, has Mowgli. Fusions picked up for both Riku and PT Lam. Mowgli is working towards that Echo for himself. Void Battery picked up. Will he be giving... Yeah, he's getting the lane gold as well. Dynasty really want him to have this Echo on board for the next fight, so look at how they give Mowgli the backs here as well. I wouldn't be surprised. Really want Mowgli to have this gold, and he's starting to get closer towards an Echo.
You're seeing also how... We talked about yesterday how teams will punish Orion a little bit more heavily than we saw yesterday. Rikameza has felt like he's done nothing in these fights. Even the double Valkyrie in that last fight didn't feel very impactful. He's got one damage item. He's acting as a utility Rhyme at this point in time. And they're all playing around PT Lamb being able to back up and be the main carry in these fights. I am just now starting to worry about maybe a lack of damage coming out for Dynasty. Like, is a Broken Myth Rhyme simply enough with the Echo on him there? Just feels like he's been very easily circumvented in these fights, and he's been a non-issue for SK for the majority of it.
Mowgli heading back to heal. How much is Echo when you have Void Battery? Was it 1300? Am I wrong?
1400.
1400?
Yeah, it
must be 1500 because he's running back to lane at this point to pick up the ambient. And now he will back 1500. So Echo is now available for Mowgli. Crucial timing for Dynasty as the Kraken has respawned. Is their utility composition enough to allow PT Lamb the work? Here we go. Fount is going to go down. That's going to be a stun onto Hegman. There's the second gauntlet. Stuns up. Kavalifar in the middle of it all. His Shimmer Strike's out. Now they're looking for Tyra's. Tyra's going very low. Tyra's still being healed by Divine Interventions. Fountain will come out for PT Lamb. Rikameza moving on in. Has used both his Valkyries as we speak. And PT Lamb struggling to get out. Gets wholly novaed. But they've taken down K-Val, the major damage source of SK. And now Tyra's will be following. Double kill for PT Lamb. Hegman running away. Perhaps this utility composition from Dynasty was all that was necessary.
Wow, I think more PT Lamb has just been playing an absolutely stellar game so far. He has just been able to dance around in the right positions at the right time.
Ace.
Gets the ace to boot. PT Lamb almost untouchable there. Kavalifar playing a very different style to we've seen him play. I think at this point you don't have to worry about Rikameza, so you just kind of kite backwards against him. But Kavalifar jumping in there, trying to put pressure onto PT Lamb. Tyra is now at the point where he's getting kited so easily as well. This guy, PT Lamb, I mean, I always knew he was a good carry, but he's been playing on another level that even I have ever seen him play. Have a look at that fight. The double Echo on the gauntlet was so important because look how it restricted the movement of SK. A composition that they kind of want the movements to use, right? You know, you've got a CP Idris, very, very mobility-focused carry. You've got a Cruel who relies on that movement speed to keep on top of his targets. With the double gauntlet coming out from Mowgli, it really restricted the gameplay space for SK, meaning that actually Rhyme could be a bit more effective. And the fact that PT Lamb could dance around an area that was just so easily defined. I think that was one of the major breakpoints for that fight. The Echo coming out of Mowgli really limited a highly mobile composition from SK.
Not only that, the Valkyries pretty much guaranteed to connect on Tyros and Hegman when they're stuck in a gauntlet. Another one will come through. Tyros gets stunned up as he tries to come in. Second gauntlet separates the team, and Kavalifar stuck in the middle of it. Great stun onto PT Lamb. Now it's Tyros moving in to try and lay down the damage. Kavalifar left outside, but Holy Nova knocks up PT Lamb. He's going very low. Fountain to try and heal. Tyros looking for a smite, trying to get the kill down as Kavalifar will move in as well. Don't forget, Kraken is alive. Kraken is pushing in. And Rikamez is moving with it, though. Will backport as we speak. PT Lamb not able to stop Styras, but it is going to be Riku finding the backport. This Kraken will find a turret here in the base. The choke point went down earlier as well. Slowly but surely, Dynasty get closer and closer to their first European week win.
Kavalifar actually played that fight really well with the Shimmer Strike, got himself right onto the edge of those gauntlets. Yes, he got stunned on the second one, but managed to push himself out of that range and then was able to reset his position. Also, you can see Hegman has put up a bit of CP to back up that double heal that he's now got with the Echo, obviously. And that you can see how impactful these Divine Interventions have been, Dowsy. I think there have been some team fight saving Divine Interventions from Hegman. If I was to pick out a player that I think has performed out of his mind in all of the series that we've seen from SK today, I would definitely be looking towards Hegman. The guy has been unbelievable in the cap role. I often don't think that the captain players get enough love sometimes, and Hegman has been really, really good. That Holy Novas have been almost pinpoint perfect, even managing to catch out PT Lam in that last fight, giving a split crucial second for Tyrus to catch up and continue to apply pressure to him. So, I mean, Hegman's been fantastic. They're looking to make a death brush happen here. I'm wondering if Dynasty Gaming know that. They don't want to extend too much further past.
There's no flares available to them. Absolutely none at all. The Dynasty may just opt in to play in the lane and not allow SK the possibility. Tyrus leading the charge. That's going to be a gauntlet going down. A stun onto Rikamez. A second gauntlet gets issued. Valkyrie stuns up the melees. And now it's all on to Kavalafa, who's falling very low. Stuns himself in the gauntlet with the Shimmer Strike. It is Tyrus now going low. And PT Lam as well. He's dead. SK have done it. There's no stopping them now. A second kill will come through. Mowgli the third. The ace will come out. And SK will tie the series here at Scoundrel 1 apiece. Intense team fights, but SK able to come up on top.
It's not been easy for SK. They were made to work for this victory at 27 minutes, nearing 28, and you know, it's been a very, very, very close affair. But finally, SK come out on top after what was, you know, a very messy team fight from them. PT Lam just a little bit out of position. Again, a good use of the Shimmer Strike from Kavalafa to try and negate as much of the CC and damage as possible. But Hegman once more, some absolutely crucial divine interventions, keeping his team in fighting shape. Incredible series, incredible series. We're going to a third game as well. We'll have to see what comes out. I don't want to see a rhyme. I think it was played around way too nicely by SK this time round.